Gifted learning was never a program that I was asked to be in, apparently. These kids are remarkable. I mean, they really are. Does anyone feel kind of the same ironic kind of tragedy here? You see the brilliance that is coming out of these kids. You see what this program is doing, and then you read, about budget cuts that were in yesterday's paper when we all woke up and what's going on. And the reality is that the Bellevue School District, this year alone, during the school year, had to cut their budget 3 times. This is the 5th year in a row that the district had to cut its budget overall. We are the 42nd worst state in the public funding of kids in schools. I mean, it just baffles you, doesn't it? You see what's coming out of this district, and yet you look on the curve and the dollars are just plummeting. I mean, the reality is this, as I see it. As an employer, I'm nervous because are we employing the kids, are we teaching the kids that I want to employ in the future? The teachers are nervous. Do I have the resources to actually impart the skills that I've learned and that I'm very good at? Think of parents of a challenged kid. Can he or she get the support that they need to prosper and have every opportunity to prosper along anyone else? How about the kids that are average? Are they lost and are they kind of forgotten about in the schools? And then the gifted kids, are they truly getting the resources that are necessary? I mean, the reality is, it's ugly, but the reality is the only way it happens and the only way it's been happening is through through private funding of public education. The mystery is over. Schools are no longer funded, and the quality of education that we've come to expect does not exist through public funding alone. Private funding is an integral, major, and growing part of the stool that keeps this district going. And that's the reality of it. What I find amazing is, in this community, private funding for public education comes through the Bellevue Schools Foundation. So here's a foundation that is charged, that has on one side a plummeting public funding source, so they therefore have to make it up. But instead of trying to avert the crisis, they keep looking up. They keep saying, no, we're going beyond. We're going to take the leadership that this district has, and we are going to give it everything we can to create and innovate and push and prosper and screw the fact that we don't have enough money. We're going to raise it. We're going to find it because no one is backing down. I can't tell you the pride I take in the fact that that's what's going on in this community. Nobody is crying and spilt milk. Everybody is looking forward. Everyone that I'm associated with in the district and the foundation is absolutely pedal on the metal. We are moving this district to levels, and we are going to become an agent for change in educational practices. You heard Dr. Cudera talk about the STEM school. 1,700 schools applied for a $5 million grant. Sammamish gets it. Oh, by the way, you've got 5 weeks, you have to come up with $800,000 of private matching funds in order to get the $4.1 million of public funds. In 5 weeks, this community raised $800,000 on a spur-of-the-moment notice. I mean, that just doesn't happen in most districts. This is what we're about, folks. The big picture school, a completely new way of funding, I mean, of education and an innovative practice in education. They needed to come up with $50,000 to support a transition coordinator relative to the interaction between the business community. What did they do? They reached out, Bellevue Schools Foundation, with about 3 weeks' notice, went out and raised $50,000 to fund that. This foundation is bent on giving this district and supporting this district. And the reality is the foundation is you. This event today is the foundation. What you do today will decide what we do in the district, what the leadership of the district has to do. You know, our kids define this community. I mean, we live in an absolute blessed community in every respect. And the reality is the kids that are in school today, the kids that you saw up on this stage today, they are us. I mean, frankly, they're a lot better than us. And It's right there. I mean, it's right there. Mercer Island and Issaquah had similar events recently, as they do every year. They blew through their previous records, blew through them. They faced the same issues that this district faces. And their community absolutely rallied, way beyond expectations. And I think that's indicative of the people in this area and how we feel about the privilege that we have to live in this area and what we've all benefited from and how we absolutely want our children to be able to have that going forward. So the reality is we've got to give a lot of money. I absolutely have to give a lot of money. And I don't see any other way around it. If you come to this lunch and $250 is absolutely meaningful and impactful in your life, then I, on behalf of everyone, want to thank you for it. Every dollar is important, and you showed up and you stood up and you contributed to be a member of what has to be the broadest-based community support of private funding for public education. So thank you to those people. If you came to this lunch and you know in your heart that $10,000 is not going to change your life meaningfully, I don't see how you walk out of here without thinking about that possibility. $10,000, I mean, you put $10,000 into this school district, you might as well sprinkle miracle dust on something. I mean, you could fund the Starting Strong program across the board with a single $10,000 gift. $5,000 gifts, same kind of a thing. Think of this, $5,000 buys 20 musical instruments for 5 elementary schools that wouldn't have had a music program if it wasn't for your gift. $5,000. I understand it's a lot of money, folks, but for a lot of people in this room, you can find a way to come up with $5,000. This is public education that's better than any private education that you can find in this community. Now, the first $1,000 that I hope that everybody in this room is able to offer, the first $1,000 of your gift is matched by these amazing donors, these angels. I mean, these angels are remarkable people. Think about what they're doing. They're walking in today going, I have no idea how much money I'm going to give away. And if he's successful in getting them to give a lot of money, that means I just gave a lot of money. So I'm not too popular with the angels at the moment. Your 1,000 is 2,000, and your 2,000 with a corporate match is 3,000, and think what $3,000 can do. Absolutely change the whole dynamic. We have 1,100 people in this room. We are sold out. 4 years ago, when I came on the board, we had 600 people at this luncheon. We have doubled the community involvement in these kids. And it's not because of the Bellevue Schools Foundation. It's because of the kids. It's because that little boy that stood up there, he told you essentially everything you need to know to say, can I contribute $1,000 or $2,000 to that little boy? I mean, he is a rock star. That kid is going to be an absolute, I mean, you can just see it in his eyes. He's alert, he's thinking, he's looking forward, his mind is moving. Come on, folks, $2,000. It's not rocket science, right? We need that kind of money. So I have to come out with my little, I got last year or 2 years ago when I did this, I got scolded for not doing the logistics properly. So I gotta do the logistics properly here. So, first of all, table captains. Orange envelope. Please, pass it around. In your orange envelope is your pledge card. There's one pledge card for everyone. There's actually more than one pledge card for everyone, because here's what's going to happen. You either already wrote down the number before I finished, shame on you, and now you're saying to yourself, can I really walk out of here without, only giving X? I probably have, maybe I should double it. So fill out a second one, that's fine. Second of all, if your cell phones are off, turn them on and call your spouse because you're nervous about going home and saying, I just gave $2,000. If you'd like me to text your spouse, I'll be happy to. When you fill this out, this is what I got in trouble on, folks, so help me here. And if you use a credit card, you must put your expiration date, you must put your security, the security code on your credit card, as well as your name and card number. We can't figure out the difference between Visa, American Express, et cetera, if you don't write it down. So please fill out the card completely in that regard. If you have a check, we prefer it. We don't have to pay the bank for the charge. I think you see where we're going with this. We're trying to move at the pace that the district is moving. This district is innovating daily. There is nothing being left, no rock is being unturned as to what we can do that is better than what we did yesterday. I had an opportunity to hear the superintendent come into our board meeting and say, we just got our budget cut again for the second time mid-year. And the next words out of her mouth were not what she was going to cut, but what new program she was launching. This is the way it is. This is the environment our kids are in. And it has to be today. There is no tomorrow. You leave here today and we're short, it doesn't work. So please, I need a big check. I need a really big check. And many of you know, thank you. You know that in the big scheme of things, your life does not change, and you have just made a tremendous investment in your kids. Now, when you're done writing the check and you take the deep breath and you've texted the spouse that this guy twisted your arm and he was obnoxious, but you did it and blah, 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 blah. You then have to take your purse or your wallet and you have to pull it out and you have to find this bucks for books. Now, this may sound a little corny to you. Last year, we raised $6,000 by people just taking their purse or the wallet, throwing a 20 in here before they left. A 20, a 50, 100, a couple of checks if you'd like. But seriously, $6,000. May not sound like much. You know what Bellevue Schools Foundation did with it? They bought school supplies for kids who couldn't get their own supplies. Okay? So 20 bucks, now you just gave a kid who wasn't going to be able to afford to bring whatever it is, markers and crayons and that kind of stuff. You just did it, like that, 20 bucks. Think what 100 does. So please, pass this around. Table captains, I'm relying on you heavily. My wife is one of them over here, so I'm looking at her. I need you to get this out, I need you to pass it around, and I need you to put the money in this, because there will be volunteers, table captains, as you walk out, hand it to the volunteers. You will be surprised what this little thing does relative to helping kids. So folks, it's awfully hard to compete with the brilliance of these children that were up here earlier, but I appreciate the fact that I think everyone in this room recognizes that whatever you just did in the last 3 minutes has just set the stage for the coming year. And we're either going to have a year that absolutely is beyond expectations in every respect, and these kids are going to have bigger smiles next year, or we took a half step back. And I sure hope that we move forward. So on behalf of everyone, thank you very much.